Indiana Jones is one of the most iconic heroes in cinema, a legend who wasn't crafted through destiny or prophecy, but almost by accident. He began as a square, a rule-following kid, and somehow evolved into one of the most human, flawed, and powerful heroes ever put to screen. And today, I want to do something a little different. I'm going to break down who Indiana Jones is, the man behind the whip, by looking at the first 3 films, where his character is at his strongest. Then I'll explore how the last 2 films drift away from what made him compelling. So, let's take a look. Also, like, share, and hit the bell. It will greatly help the channel. Indiana Jones's story technically begins in a flashback from The Last Crusade. We meet young Henry Jones Jr., a Boy Scout with a strong moral compass and a desperate desire to impress a father who was never really there. His father's line, "Did I ever tell you to eat up, go to bed, wash your ears, do your homework? No, I respect your privacy and taught you self-reliance," tells us everything. Indy grew up fast because he had to. His father wasn't cruel, but he was distant, absorbed in his own academic world, so Indy learned to admire him from afar. He tried to model himself after the one thing his father did love, archaeology. That flashback shows us the blueprint of the man he'll become. Right now we know he's determined, he improvises, he believes in doing the right thing. His motto is, "It belongs in a museum." And when he loses the Cross of Coronado and the outlaw gives him the fedora, his worldview cracks. For the first time, he learns that doing the right thing doesn't guarantee victory. That moment plants the seed of cynicism that will bloom later. By the time we reach Temple of Doom, a prequel to Raiders, Indy is no longer the bright-eyed kid shouting about museums. He's a grave robber chasing fortune and glory. He's colder, more jaded, more willing to play dirty. Between that flashback and Temple of Doom lies the most ambiguous period of Indy's life. The young Indiana Jones Chronicles gives us glimpses. A kid traveling the world, meeting historical figures, running away from home, and operating on his own, even joining World War I and becoming a stuntman for John Ford movies, which explains why he's comfortable with the dangers he faces in the films. But what happened to shape him into the Indy in Temple of Doom? Well, for starters, Indy losing the cross obviously made him more rebellious and less of a Boy Scout. Indy also served in World War I, a place where people die in front of you, where danger was constant, and where emotional detachment became a survival skill. He's seen worse. He lived worse. Indy also traveled everywhere as a kid. He saw wonders, but also horrors. By adulthood, the modern world no longer impressed him. This might have pushed him to archaeology even more. The ancient, the mysterious, those things could still surprise him. So we get a picture of a man who's seen it all, which could have added to his jaded persona, only getting excited when he sees something related in his field in archaeology. Then, while at college, Indy finally found people he respected, Harold Oxley, and more importantly, Abner Ravenwood. Abner was the closest thing Indy ever had to a real father figure. He taught him archaeology not as treasure hunting, but as discovery, the thrill of uncovering the unexplainable. But that relationship collapsed when Indy had a romantic relationship with Abner's daughter, Marion. Indy distanced himself, lost his mentor, and probably felt he failed the one moral role model he had. That guilt lingers, it reshapes him. Abner represented the moral academic, noble version of archaeology, the version Indy wanted to live up to. Indy didn't just lose a mentor, he lost the version of himself he wanted to be. So he defaulted to the other influences in his life, the outlaw who gave him that hat, the distant father who valued work over connection, the harsh lessons of war. He became a man who believed he could never be the upstanding archaeologist Abner wanted him to be, so he embraced the opposite, the cynical treasure hunter we see in Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom shows us Indiana Jones at his lowest point, morally, professionally, and spiritually. When we first meet him, he's not dressed like an archaeologist, he's dressed like Rick Blaine and James Bond's ancestor, and he's not digging up artifacts for study or preservation, he's doing business with Chinese gangsters. Right away, we see how far he's fallen. He threatens a nightclub singer, and he's willing to trade off the ashes of a Chinese emperor, a priceless cultural artifact, for cash. This isn't the Indy who shouts, "It belongs in a museum." This is a man scraping the bottom of the archaeological barrel. Even Short Round, the kid he travels with, is someone Indy is technically exploiting. But the film gives us nuance. Short Round is an orphan who tried to steal from him, and Indy took him in. Indy's escape from Shanghai is a masterclass in improvisation, gunfights, double crosses, and a getaway that only works because Indy knows the right people in the wrong places. But things spiral fast. A saboteur on the plane forces Indy, Willie, and Short Round to bail out using a raft. When they finally land in India, the tone shifts. A starving village offers them food, and Indy accepts it without hesitation. This is a subtle but important beat. He knows when to slow down, when to show respect, and when to accept hospitality. It's a reminder that beneath the cynicism, there's still a man who understands the world and the people in it. The villagers tell Indy their story. A sacred Sankara stone has been stolen. Children have been kidnapped. Their land is dying. It's a classic hero's call, but Indy doesn't accept it for noble reasons. He wants the stone for fortune and glory. He's not trying to be a Boy Scout, he's trying to score a win. When he confronts Shatala, the Prime Minister of Pancon Palace, the man easily deflects Indy's suspicion of the thuggy cult being around there, even calling Indy out for being a grave robber, wanted in multiple countries to make him seem like a liar. To the British Empire, Shatala looks like a respectable official. Indy looks like trouble. And honestly, at this point in his life, he is. An assassination attempt finally convinces Indy that something is wrong. He discovers a secret passage leading to the reborn Thuggee cult, a group the British believe they wiped out, but they only went underground. Indy witnesses human sacrifice. He sees the Sankara stones. He tries to steal them, but then he hears something worse, the screams of enslaved children. They're being forced to dig for the remaining stones, which would give the Thuggee unimaginable power. Due to this distraction, he's kidnapped and tortured. He is forced to drink the blood of Kali. Indy, the man who once chased artifacts for glory, becomes an artifact himself, exploited and controlled. His obsession with treasure has led him into the same trap he watched others fall into. He's officially at rock bottom. However, Short Round is the one who saves him. Not a mentor, not a father figure, a child. Short Round snaps Indy out of his trance, and Indy finally sees the truth. The stones don't matter, the glory doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is saving the children. This is the turning point. Indy stops being a treasure hunter and instead becomes a hero. He fights through the mines with quick thinking and raw determination. He frees the children. He confronts Molaram on the rope bridge. When Molaram tries to take the stones, Indy calls out his betrayal of Shiva, and the stones burn with divine heat, sending the villain to his doom. The children return home, the village is restored, and Indy gives up the Sankara stones, saying it belongs with the people, not in his pocket. This isn't the museum line from Raiders, this is deeper. Indy realizes that cultural artifacts aren't trophies, they're responsibilities, and exploiting them can lead to suffering, corruption, and violence. Molaram even says the stones were stolen by outsiders, which forced the Thuggee to hide them underground. That theft is what led to the children being enslaved in the first place. If Temple of Doom shows Indiana Jones at his lowest, Raiders of the Lost Ark shows him at his most balanced. the perfect midpoint between the reckless treasure hunter and the noble archaeologist he's trying to become. The film opens with Indy in full command of his craft. He cracks his whip with precision, brushes tarantulas off without flinching, and navigates ancient traps with the confidence of someone who survived more than a few. He retrieves the idol only to lose it immediately to his rival, Reneem Belloc. And Belloc is everything Indy isn't. Where Indy is self-made, Belloc is privilege. Where Indy relies on grit, Belloc relies on connections. Where Indy speaks with his fists, Belloc speaks every language in the room. He's the anti-Indy, a man who uses culture, wealth, and influence to get what he wants. He doesn't discover artifacts, he steals them from people who do the work. He's the embodiment of everything Indy fears he might become if he keeps compromising. Then the film cuts to the university, and we see the other side of Indiana Jones. The professor, the man who loves archaeology, not for treasure, but for knowledge. He's passionate, respected, and genuinely excited to teach. This is the Indy who still believes in the ideals Abner Ravenwood once instilled in him. And it's here the US government recruits him. Agents tell him that Hitler's regime is searching for the Ark of the Covenant, not as a relic, but as a weapon. The moment Indy hears the name Abner Ravenwood, something shifts. Old memories surface, old guilt, old admiration. Abner was the expert on the Ark, and Indy knows that chasing it means confronting the past he ran from. But he accepts the mission anyway, not for patriotism, not for glory, but for discovery. He says it himself, the Ark is everything he went into archaeology for, something ancient, mysterious, unexplainable, a myth that might be real. Ironically, it's also something he's not meant to see, because the Ark is a divine object that punishes those who disturb it. Indy is chasing the very thing that will later prove the limits of human ambition. We also see where Indy sends his finds, Marcus Brody's museum. Marcus is the opposite of Indy in almost every way. He's gentle, scholarly, and more interested in preserving history than chasing it. Indy trusts Marcus because Marcus represents the ideal, the belief that artifacts should be preserved, studied, and respected, not exploited, not sold, not used as weapons. And that trust tells us something important. Even after everything he's been through, he still believes archaeology can be noble. He still believes in the value of knowledge. Raiders is the film where Indy tries to reconcile who he is with who he wants to be, the adventurer and the academic, the cynic and the idealist, the man who digs up the past and the man who wants to protect it. Indy's journey to find Abner Ravenwood doesn't lead him to a mentor, it leads him straight into the past he's been avoiding. Marion Ravenwood, the old flame, the unresolved wound, the woman who can drink half a bar under the table and still stand tall. She's not impressed to see him, she's not intimidated by him, and she's definitely not giving him the artifact piece he needs. She lies about not having it, and Indy sees right through her. Good thing too, because Major Todd, a Nazi agent, arrives moments later to take it by force. Indy defends her, retrieves the piece, and suddenly Marion demands to come along. And this is where Indy faces a new kind of challenge. Short Round and Willie Scott were passengers in his double life, people he could guide, protect, or ignore when necessary. Marion is different. She knows him. She knows the good and the bad. She knows the history he's ashamed of, and she's not going to let him run from it. Working with Marion forces Indy to confront himself. She doesn't idolize him, she doesn't despise him, she stands in the middle, the one place Indy has never been comfortable. As he tries to earn back her respect, she gives him something he hasn't had in years, partnership, and in some quiet corner of his mind, reconciling with Marion feels like a chance to reconcile with Abner too, even though Abner is gone. When Marion is seemingly killed, Indy loses more than a companion. He loses the possibility of redemption. The door he thought might reopen slams shut. so he throws himself into the mission with a single-minded focus. Nothing matters now except the Ark. With the help of Sala, a friend, not a resource, Indy finds someone who can decode the headpiece and find the true location of the Ark. Again, unlike Belloc, who uses armies and privilege, Indy has Sala, and he's a man with connections, kindness, and loyalty. Indy adapts to the local culture, works with people, and earns their trust, something Belloc never does. Meanwhile, Belloc has aligned himself with Nazis. He doesn't like them, but he doesn't care what they do with the Ark either. He just wants to see what's inside, no matter the cost. Indy also wants the Ark for discovery, but he refuses to let the Nazis get their hands on it. And despite all that manpower, Belloc and the Nazis still can't find the Ark, while Indy and Sala did. Then something unexpected happens. Marion is alive. The door Indy thought was closed forever opens again. But now he's too deep into the mission. He's too close to the Ark, so he chooses the easy path, the path of discovery, and leaves Marion behind to finish the job. It's not his proudest moment, but it's honest. He finds the Ark only to lose it again. He and Marion grow closer as they try to escape together. She tends to his injuries, and for the first time, Indy lets himself be vulnerable, which makes her kidnapping again even more painful. This leads to one of Indy's most revealing moments. He aims a bazooka at the Ark, threatening to destroy it if Belloc doesn't release Marion. He wouldn't actually do it, but the fact that he considers it is huge. His personal connection is finally wrestling with his obsession with discovery. But Belloc calls his bluff. The Ark is history, he says, and Indy knows he's right. When the Ark is open, Indy does something no one else does. He looks away, knowing full well of the consequences of looking. That restraint saves his life and Marion's. Afterward, Indy returns the Ark to the government, and he earns his fortune. But now he cares deeply about where the Ark ends up. He's protective, suspicious. The agents tell him top men are studying it, but the vague bureaucratic answer frustrates him. Indy knows they don't understand what they have. He barely understands it himself. This moment changes him. Discovery is no longer simple. Archaeology is no longer just adventure. Knowledge without caution is what Belloc practiced, and it led to his death. Indy realizes that in a world full of people who want to exploit the past, someone has to protect it. Someone has to stand between dangerous artifacts and dangerous men. And the one thing in his life that feels honest, grounded, and real, the thing that doesn't involve power or politics, is Marion.